Hello everyone, welcome to NintenDormant, the podcast where we discuss Nintendo games that have been left on the shelf. I'm your host George Banks, and joining me today, I'm very glad to introduce for the first time on the show, industry legend Kat Bailey. Kat, hello.
Make way for Kat. How you doing?
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Starting off with a quote, very nice. Yes, I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. Excited to talk about, honestly, one of my top 3 favorite game series of all time.
Yes, it's so good. I'm hoping that we might even get a Kat take. I'm not gonna put any pressure on, but if we can get a Kat take during this podcast, I'll be very, very happy.
Oh, I'll try not to let you down.
I'm sure you won't. Joining Kat for the second time on NintenDormant from Boundary Break, it's Shesez. Shesez, hello.
What's up? How's it going?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I couldn't come up with a Starfox quote off the cuff for that, but maybe I'll make up for it later.
Oh, I'm sure I'm very glad you got your blue headphones back. You were questioning the blue headphones on Bluesky. I'm a big fan of them.
Are they becoming iconic? Okay. Yeah, I gotta keep them. Fair enough.
Yeah. I see blue, I think Sonic the Hedgehog, and Shesez. It's all just ingrained now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Come on, step it up. There you go. One quote. It's not Starfox, though. Another anthropomorphic.
Well, he fits within that world. It's fine. Thank you both very much for being here. I hope you've both been well. Kat, you've just been away recently. Where did you head off to?
I was just traveling through Europe, actually. I recently left IGN.com, and I've had a lot more free time to myself, so I used the opportunity to jet off to Europe and go explore the RPG dungeon that is Lisbon in Portugal. Sorry to people from Portugal, I don't mean to denigrate your city. It's absolutely incredible, really
beautiful.
Gorgeous, but It gave me big Elden Ring vibes, especially when I was exploring Sintra. Had a great time. So I also went to Amsterdam, and then in a couple weeks I'm going to go skiing. So I'm just on one extended vacation for the time being.
That's amazing. She said, have you ever been over to Europe as well, to see any of the kind of the old ancient cities that we have over here?
I certainly would love to, but I have not had the chance yet. The only time I've ever been outside the United States was Canada so far. It barely counts. But supposedly, if the cards are going to line up right, I might be in South Korea soon. So that could be interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a brand
Is that for work?
Yeah, for work-related thing.
Oh, man. That's amazing that you get to do that. I mean, I'm just sort of locked into rainy old England. I've never been over your side of the pond, I'm afraid. I'd love to.
Come over to California. It's very different.
Oh, yeah.
Considerably less grim during the winter.
Oh yeah. True. It's fully grim here at the moment. I don't think I've ever seen a real-life palm tree. And I do feel like that should be something that I write before I end my time on Earth. So, California, there's palm trees everywhere there. Yeah, definitely. That's fine. Did you play any games on your travels? Obviously, Switch is one of the best companions for traveling around. Did you play anything while you were traveling around?
The Switch stayed home, actually, but I did bring my Analog Pocket with me, and I was playing a handful of GBA games. I've recently been playing Puyo, was it Fusion, I think it is? Or Fever, Puyo Fever, there you go. Really excellent take on the Puyo series. And I had my Steam Deck with me. Sorry, Nintendo Switch. Playing because I wanted to play Metaphor Refantagio. I've been playing Persona 3 Reload. Those are the kind of games that I've been into recently. And then I'm catching up on my backlog, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm under orders from my community over at Axe of the Blood God to play through Final Fantasy XIV through the Heavensward expansion. So I'm working on that as well. And then I recently got a code for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So that's sitting on my PC, and I managed to get started on that not too long ago. So a bunch of different games. Back in the days of when I was going on Nintendo Voice Chat, it was non-Tendo. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I'm really hopeful that I'm going to have a lot of really good Nintendo games relatively soon, perhaps when the Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah, so we're recording this just before we know what we've seen the Switch 2, but we haven't had the details yet. So this will come out just before that. I do love the Analog Pocket. I got persuaded on a previous episode, finally playing Mother 3. I've just accepted that it's not coming, and I've just finished chapter 1. Oh, it's so good. I mean, I can't talk about it here because I'll talk too long. But you must have played it, Kat and Shesez, both of you.
We recently lost David Lynch, and we were talking about games that RPGs that maybe come closest to matching his sort of surrealist vibes, and Mother 3 definitely came up.
Yeah. How about you? She says you played it.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Mother fan. I don't know if you notice, but I got
Oh,
a couple.
boo!
And there's also Earthbound in the background.
Oh yeah, there's Ness right there. Yeah.
Oh wow! If you're just watching, he has a. She says has a figure of poo. I'm not just shouting poo into the microphone. He's here with us.
Are you a Ness main and Smash?
For the N64 one, I was, and then from then on, he just wasn't up to scratch, and so it changed over the years. So, but if I ever boot
Ness
up 64,
mains are nightmares. Honestly, I find them really hard to deal with.
Yeah, they're very unconventional. That's kind of their angle, is with that PK Thunder and everything. But Mother 3,
he was so good in 64.
Yes, he was excellent in 64. But like that first chapter, that's a punch in the gut, isn't it? I believe.
I haven't fully finished it yet. I've literally started it yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
So
no
I'll talk vaguely, but I'm back at I've rescued somebody, and it's kind of like the next morning. That's so like I'm really early, really really early.
Yeah.
But yeah, loving it. And yes, you mentioned Axe of the Blood God, Kat, your podcast where you talk about RPGs. How's that going? Have you got anything exciting coming up with that?
Yeah, it's great. We're off to a strong start in 2025. It's our 10th anniversary and 5 years since going independent, and our 500th episode coming up in early March. We just launched a newsletter, and we did a charity stream raising for a little more than $4,000 for LA wildfire relief. Thank you so much to everybody for donating to that. And you can find us over on Twitch at twitch.tv/BloodGodPod. And our podcast is, of course, on wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and whatnot. But if you're not familiar with Axe of the Blood God, it's a show that I've been doing for 10 years now with Nadia Oxford and Eric Van Allen. And each week we could talk about everything that's been happening in the world of RPGs. And not surprisingly, that has a lot of crossover with Nintendo, which has several very notable RPGs itself. Not a Starfox RPG, though. I would love for that to be happening.
Yes, I was wondering if that might sneak into your pitch. Well, I think this is our 10th episode, so slightly different time frame from you. And she says you have your video games podcast as well. How's that going?
Oh, that's canceled. That's okay.
No!
But it's canceled.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's just dead. Yeah, we had to shut it down. But no podcast. Yeah, salute. But it's
I enjoyed it.
I'm always willing to do a new podcast. It's just sadly I have this podcast curse where every time I actually host a podcast, it tends to go the wayside.
Hosting a podcast is hard. What can I say?
Yeah, it's hard to start it up, and then it's hard to keep the band together. It's all that stuff.
I'm just gonna make a note that if I can't ever do it, I'm just not gonna get you to host. If that's all right.
Yeah, don't do that.
Like, I'm sure you'd be a wonderful host.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work, isn't it? I mean, it's because I do everything. So I do all the editing and all that sort of stuff, and I chat to people and ask if they want to come on the show. I love it, and I've said to my wife, I'm going to give it a year. And just because I love to talk about games, and we're all here to talk about games. So why don't we play a little game right now? So yes, it's time for the NintenDormant Quickfire quiz. 2 rounds, fastest finger first, followed by play or pass for double points. As always, we'll let our guests choose their buzzers for today's quiz. So, she says, last time I believe you had the wow. You did it so well. Please do it one more time from Earthbound after the character select.
I could try again. It was like wow or something like that.
It's so perfect. It's so. When I found it to splice it together, I just went, it's perfect. Are you going to go with that again? Are you going to switch it up to something else?
This time I would love the Master Belch. That'd be great.
Master Belch. Very good. Earthbound coming up twice in this one. Okay, no problem. Kat, what would you like for your buzzer?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Why don't we just keep it simple and go with the Legend of Zelda?
Yeah. Oh, I think that's my first Zelda buzzer. Fantastic. I don't have to search for something very obscure. Do you have a preferred series entry? Because there's little variations.
Oh, why don't we just say Link to the Past?
Yes, I was hoping you'd say that.
Classic, iconic, very good. I have a tendency to make these either really too easy or really too hard. So I'm hoping this is going to hit the sweet spot, and I'm not going to mess it up this week. Question 1. Starfox often sees the player travelling from Corneria to Venom, but what system do the planets belong to? Oh, it's Shesez just.
Oh, wow. Lylat.
It is the Lylat system. 1 point to Shesez. Yes, I mean, if you're from the UK, then you'll know that because, I mean, you guys must know what the game's called in the UK. The 64
Lylat
game.
Wars.
Lylat Wars. I think that is it's a better name. I mean, I don't know if I'm biased, but it's a better name.
I think Starfox is a little less generic myself.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it's because, I mean...
It's in the title, Starfox.
Yes,
What?
I know, but I think because we had Star Wing on the SNES as well, so we didn't even have Starfox until the GameCube. And I loved Lylat Wars so much when I was a kid with the rumble pack in the box.
When it was
So
Star
for
Fox
me,
Adventures, what did you guys call it there? Because doesn't that planet not take place in the Lylat system?
No, it's the Lylat system, but
It
it's
still
like
is?
an unknown planet. It's Sour, isn't it?
Okay.
Dinosaur planet. It's here somewhere. Where are you? He's here somewhere. Oh, there he is! Yeah, Star Fox Adventures. So that's the first time it became Star Fox. It was Starwing before.
Hey,
then.
look at that.
I know. We'll talk about this game. I have complicated feelings about this game. Question two. Lylat Wars sees us utilising vehicles other than the arwing for the first time. But what is the name of the underwater ship? Now, I do have multiple choice. Oh, Cat's gone for it.
Isn't it called the Blue Marine?
Cat, yes it is. The Blue Marine, very good.
How do you like the Blue Marine, Fox?
And they just just absolutely destroy Slippy over a very functioning submarine. I don't understand that.
For my money, it is the absolute worst vehicle in the entire Star Fox series. It's so slow and turgid and horrible.
Really? Worse than the gyrocopter thing, right? From Zero?
The gyrocopter, I don't mind, but the blue, it's just slow. Like, Star Fox is so much about action, being action-packed, right? And the Blue Marine's kind of just chug, 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 boop, 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 boop. I don't know. What do you think, Kat?
I think that the biggest problem with that stage is that it has that murky N64 quality to it, so you can barely see in front of you. And then the actual Blue Marine itself rolls pretty slowly, so you feel you're underwater, you're moving in slow motion, and your torpedoes move very slowly as well. So it's a pretty frustrating level, and it's one of the biggest reasons that I don't often do a hard mode run when I do play Star Fox 64, because I dislike that level so much.
It's agonizing. I can't stand it. Rest of the game, Aquas, not for me. Question 3. Right, so, barring a late game twist, who is the primary antagonist of Star Fox Adventures? Oh, so close when you both go. Shesez just.
Oh, General Scales.
General Scales, of course. I mean, I say a late game twist. Did anybody not see the twist coming? We can talk spoilers here. The game's very old.
Oh, I definitely didn't see that coming. It felt very whiplashy to me when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Was there hints leading up to it?
No, it is very out of the blue. You sort of go, I've defeated General Scales, and then, it's Andros again for some reason. I mean, I think I would be very happy if I never have to fight Andros ever again.
Yeah. I don't know. I could see him sort of like as the Bowser antagonist, but I would love it if he was like only partially involved instead of the main bad. That'd be cool if he was involved with the story, but just not.
They had to find a way to make it Star Fox somehow.
That's true. That's true. I think if he was the first boss in a new game, I'd be fine. But it's just, I can't shoot another set of hands and a mouth. I'm done with it. Question 4. During an unlockable ending in Star Fox Command, Fox and Crystal have a son together, but what is that son's name? Oh, Shesez.
I'll try to say he named him after his father. Was it James?
No, it wasn't James. Oh, it's a good guess. He was. I was going to give you guys multiple choice, and that was one to throw you off. Do you remember, Kat?
No, it's funny. I was literally looking at the Starfox command alternate endings.
Yeah.
And kind of laughing at Crystal taking on the name Curse at one point, among other things.
I forgot about that one. Yeah. Is that the one where she
Yeah.
joins Starwolf, or is that a different one?
She joins Starwolf, and the people of the galaxy never forgive her, including this bulldog that is staring at her and being like, ha ha. And Crystal runs away crying, and her heart hardens because she never ended up with Fox, and she becomes cursed. And then when he sees her years later, he doesn't recognize her.
Oh yes,
grim ending for Crystal.
Well, if only she had ended up with Fox, because they would have had their lovely son Marcus.
Oh, Marcus,
little blue fox with his little white wisp. I quite like that ending. It was one of my favourite ones for the game. Question 5. So last question for Fastest Finger first. In Star Fox Assault, you combat the Aperoid invasion, but which former Star Fox member do they mutate into a space station? Cat.
It's Pigma.
It's Pigma Dengar. Yes, it is. I thought the former Star Fox member might throw you off.
Well, he betrayed everybody to their doom.
I think, for me, he's kind of like the ultimate, not the ultimate villain of Star Fox, but he's up there. Like, he's a real nasty,
he's the most
despicable
for sure.
Yeah.
Peppy, long time no see.
Oh, don't get me started. I will do that voice for days. But yeah, like I remember one of the most brutal quotes is, Daddy screamed real good before he died.
Oh,
I'm like,
died?
Geez.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Just the thought of that.
And this is the first time this has happened in the NintenDormant quiz. We have, normally, the person who wins the first round goes first for play or pass, but we have a dead heat. So I'm going to do an off-the-cuff Fastest Finger first question, and this is going to go really well. Who is Falco's on-again, off-again girlfriend? Shesez.
No.
Cat.
Cat. I thought that might be an unfair one, Cat, but he's right in there. There we go.
I literally quoted her to start the episode.
I know. I'm sorry. There's no point for that one though. She says it's just to leverage going first in play or pass, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Unless this ends in a tie as well, and then in which case, whatever,
Sure.
We'll figure out. It's not serious. It's fine. So we move on to round 2, which is play or pass or double points. So if you know the answer, obviously you get yourself 2 points. If you don't know the answer, you can pass it to the other player. If they know it, they will get the 2 points. But if they don't, you still get a little point for yourself. So it's up to you whether you play or pass. Question 1, she says, if you're ready. Star Fox Assault and Star Fox Guard teach us a little more about Slippy's family. But what are the names of his father and his uncle? Is it A, Grippy and Beltino? Is it B, Trippy and Dartino? Or is it C, Tippy and Orsino?
I'll say A.
Yeah, it's A.
Okay.
Grippy and Beltino. Slippy and
Beltino sounded
Grippy.
familiar enough, yeah.
Yeah, they're not necessarily names that I love.
No, very side character-esque, for sure.
Particularly when said in succession, Slippy and Grippy, just not for me.
The less I think about that, the better, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, it's 4-2. Kat, this is your question, play or pass? Before arriving in 2017, Star Fox 2 was lost to time, and with it, 2 new Star Fox members, but who are they? Is it A, Miu and Faye, B, Fluffy and May, or C, Marta and Faith?
It's A, Mew and Faye.
It is. Do you remember what animals they are?
I think Mew's a lynx and Faye is a dog, an aristocratic dog.
Yeah, she's a poodle.
Yeah.
Yeah, poodle with a big hair. I think they're great characters. Mew and Faye.
Mew reminds me of Farrah Phoenix, who is a comics exclusive character from Nintendo Power back in the day. If you want a really deep cut,
I was gonna say
the original Fox love interest.
I always think, because obviously Star Fox 2, and we'll touch on it in a bit, but I always wonder what the route of the Star Fox team would have been had it released, because presumably they would have carried them through. There's a sort of solid timeline to the game, so It's funny to think about kind of alternate universe where Miyu and Feo are just basically part of the Starfox team.
Yeah, they're lost to history.
I know, sad. And they might come up in my pitch. Question 3. She said, this one's for you, play or pass. Now, this is just if you know. There's no multiple choice for this. These last two are just if you know it or not. So, Fox has a friend who leads the Husky and Bulldog squadron in the Cornerian army. What is that friend's name?
Bill.
It's Bill. Surname as well?
It's the surname? Oh, my goodness. I wouldn't know. No, I have no idea.
Do you know it, Kat? Oh, it's Bill Gray. I love Bill Gray. I don't know why.
Bill Gray.
Yeah, I love him. Yes, any more quotes that anybody can pluck out for Bill? You guys are like
catch
quote
up later,
machines
Fox.
for
Fox, that's one of ours.
Yeah. Hey, see if I help you again.
Shoot the core.
Yeah.
I think I might
Enemy
just do a
mothership
mashup
approaching.
of all these quotes at the end of the episode. It's brilliant. Okay, so it's 6-4. You can draw the quiz level with this one, Kat. In a Starfox Command ending, Slippy is married with 6 children, but what is the name of his wife?
I don't know.
Sorry. You can pass it.
I'll pass it.
Have you got it, she says?
No. I know exactly what she looks like. A terrible pink Muppet-looking thing. Yeah.
She is really tall and like a rake. Yeah.
Yeah. Guess that makes Slippy a short king, I guess. But I don't know what her name was. I can't for the life of me.
It's a very character-driven name. It's Amanda.
Amanda.
Oh.
Just Amanda.
I would have never guessed that.
No.
That's my mind was going to like Penelope or something like that.
Penelope? Is there a reason why?
No, it just felt right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I look forward to this in your pitch. So that is, she says on 6 points and Kat on 5 points. So she says you take this NintenDormant Quickfire points. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that means as we head on to the main event, you'll be going first. So let's head there right now. So yes, today we are talking about the Starfox series. A quick history lesson for those who don't know. Starfox is primarily an arcade-style on-rail shooter set in the fictional Lylatian system. Originally developed by the UK-based Argonaut Software to show off the Super FX chip and 3D graphics for the SNES, the series has become known for branching out into new mechanics with each iteration. The player takes on the role of Fox McCloud and his team as they work alongside the Cornerian army to counter intergalactic threats. Lots of games in the series. Kat's already said she's a huge fan of the series, as am I. I mean, if you're just listening, I am wearing a little Starfox hoodie with the gang on and a little thing that says Barrel Rollers. One of my favourite hoodies. Had it for about 15 years.
Purely by coincidence.
Hey! Great logo. It's a great logo as well.
I went with a fox. Starfox.
Wow.
Everybody's come dressed for the dance. I am very happy. So, Kat, what was your first experience with the game? When did you first pick it up?
Gosh, I think the first time I ever played Star Fox was the original Star Fox. I was very aware of it. I loved the comic and in Nintendo Power, and it was obviously heavily promoted across various channels as a technical marvel on the Super Nintendo. And truly, it was. It did look very cool, even though in 1993 it was still kind of slow and a little bit clunky. The first time I ever booted it up, I thought there was something wrong with the cartridge because of the way the voices sound. So when they were going, burr, 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 I thought, oh my gosh, I need to blow in this cartridge some more because obviously the sound files are corrupted. And it was only later that I realized that actually, no, that's just what they sound like when they talk, which, by the way, I find really charming.
Oh, I love it.
The original Star Fox had an incredible soundtrack and I liked the mix of the 2D and the 3D, and it did a great job of establishing a very appealing universe. And of course, the design of the arwings themselves was really, really neat. And then when the N64 came out, almost immediately we started hearing about Star Fox 64, and I saw some of the very early teaser videos and such. And so, of course, when Star Fox 64 came out, I did not have an N64, but my friend did. And let me tell you, that's all I wanted to play for our year of our Lord 1997. And it remains probably one of my 2 or 3 favorite games of all time.
Oh, so did you have the Rumble Pack as well?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't have the Rumble Pack?
Oh, yeah. If I may throw in my own game quote, the Falco noise from the SNES is really ingrained in my... I think it just goes, bring, 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 7. It's just, it always sounds like bing, 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 7.
I go Baba Wing Dabbit. That's
yes. What's Slippy's noise? He's like,
yeah, Slippy's noise was
yeah, so good. I actually turn it off. I think you can have English or Lylatian on the N64, right? And I choose Lylatian. I just like hearing those noises. It's mad. How about you, Shesez? Did you pick it up on the SNES too?
Actually, I didn't have a Super Nintendo for a long time, so I would go over friends' houses and play Super Nintendo. One of them had Starfox. And my very first memory, I remember distinctly, I thought that the sound effects and everything for when you're getting out of the hangar was really like creepy and scary almost. Just like, had a really strange vibe to it. So it was like kind of intimidating to me as a little kid.
It was supposed to be an alarm, right?
Yeah.
It's something to just kind of signify that they're ready to launch. And yeah, I was like, honestly, like I thought it was going to be like a horror game at first. And then once you finally get going, it's like, oh, this is really cool. Like I can't believe you could do this.
It could be scary, especially when you go to Venom.
Oh, yeah. And the opening, you've got that floating ship, haven't you? It's like that shipwreck thing in space, and the music's quite creepy. And then it kicks in with Corneria. You're right, Kat. Like the even from the off on the SNES, the atmosphere that it sets is just does great world building with very little, I think, on the SNES. And actually, I think it's a series that's really continued that. You know, there's obviously the sort of classic Starfox gang. You've got Peppy and Slippy and Falco and Fox. But you know, we've quoted Cat. We know Bill. We haven't even talked about Starwolf. You know, Wolf, Leon, Pigma, Panther, Andrew, who's related to all these characters, and they all have a journey. And then that all kind of changed with Starfox Adventures, which takes us on to it's basically an action adventure game, right? It's a very different vibe. What did you think of that? She says that change that they sort of took on.
I was on board with it when they first announced it. In practice, though, it just felt like, even back then, it just felt like a 7 out of 10 Zelda experience. Like, it just wasn't quite up to snuff with what I expected from Nintendo. I liked the idea of having more story involved with the Star Fox series, and so having Fox McCloud walking around and interacting with other characters and his crewmates and stuff, although I would have liked more interactions with the crewmates, frankly. That was something I was ready to experience, on top of also getting the rail shooting. But everything just was underbaked, I felt like. I feel like there was a strong concept. It just didn't execute quite as well as I would have wanted to, essentially.
Yeah, Kat, would you agree?
I actually missed Star Fox Adventures when it first came out because I didn't own a GameCube in 2003. I was poor. And I remember being a little nonplussed by the concept. I wanted to fly around in an arwing and do the shoot 'em up stages. And what I really wanted was for Nintendo to go and make a proper Star Fox game for GameCube. And we sort of got one a couple years later, courtesy of Namco, but we can talk about that in a bit. But I do remember a lot of people were very fixated on Fox's fur. That was a really nifty technical accomplishment.
Yes, I forgot about that, yeah.
When it came out. And it was billed as a technical showcase for the GameCube. And the graphics don't exactly hold up now, but it generally still looks pretty good, I think. And it looked amazing back in the day. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, it was also Rare's final game on the GameCube before joining Xbox. And I heard a little conspiracy theory that the reason that Nintendo insisted that Rare change the name from Dinosaur Planet to Star Fox and include Star Fox characters was to prevent them from bringing bringing the series over to Xbox. But we'll never know.
Oh, I mean, that would be a very clever decision if that's the case.
It's just speculation. There's no real evidence, but just around that time was when Rare was going over to Xbox. So
Yeah. Well, what did you think about? So you mentioned briefly Assault, sort of the sequel on the GameCube, which is more of a return to what we kind of expected. Did you? Because a lot of people deride Assault. I think I really enjoyed it, but what did you make of it?
I rented it when it came out. I did have a GameCube by this time.
Nice.
And at the time, I really enjoyed certain aspects of it. I liked the ambition of the rail shooting stages combined with getting out on foot and walking around a space station and fighting there. The on foot sections, I think, were kind of the roughest. The rail shooting sections were definitely the strongest. Graphically, it was what I wanted as an improvement on the Starfox formula. I liked new characters like Panther. I loved the soundtrack. It sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about Star Fox as a horror game, it gets a little dark. Characters start dying. They start getting assimilated. It gets pretty weird, actually.
Yeah.
And one thing people forget is that it had a significantly expanded multiplayer section as well, where you could play as Starwolf ships, as I recall, and various other guest ships as well. So I think that it doesn't entirely come together, especially on the on-foot sections, but all in all, it's a very serviceable and enjoyable entry in the Star Fox series.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's that thing of like, what I like is that it feels like they're trying to take that extra step by including the kind of the on-foot missions and pushing the story along, and the Landmaster, and the amount of hours, even though it wasn't technically incredible. We had an Xbox in the house, we had Halo, but at university we would just spend hours on the battle mode on Assault because it was fun. It was fun being on foot and sort of taking out an arwing from above and then jumping into an arwing and then changing your, how you attack. It was a very dynamic multiplayer system. And actually, it's a game I really enjoyed. That moment where Pigma turns into the space station, that is grim. How about you, Shesez?
I'm going to be the outlier here. This is probably my least favorite one out of the series so far. Yeah. So I love the multiplayer. That was a great aspect. I played it with my friends all the time. There was a little bit of a character imbalance because each one had stats and stuff. So once you unlocked Wolf, which Wolf's one of my favorite characters, I wanted to use him and stuff. He was like just across the board better than all the other characters. But I mean, it's just like all of you just said. I love the idea that you could be on foot and also just jump into an Arwing, or you could have a teammate or anybody, frankly, jump on the wings of the Arwing, and either shoot it down from there or use it to shoot other players from while you're riding on top.
About that, yeah,
super cool. But the main story, I don't know, I just didn't jive with it. I didn't like the arrangements. I know that's like probably the hottest take because I don't think I've heard any other person say they didn't like the OST for Assault, but I just didn't. I don't really care for it. I also don't like the redesign of all the characters, how they're all in jumpsuits and stuff like that. That was a little tacky and not great looking. So I also didn't love the new voices. The weirdest thing of all is I don't think it's meant to be a compression aspect. I think it's supposed to be the way it's just supposed to sound over the radar, maybe, or not the radar, but the comm system. But there's like a weird sort of filter that's over the voices when they talk. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but there's like, it's not clear like you would see from something like Star Fox Adventures, for example. It kind of has like a weird, I don't know how to describe it, almost like a metallic-ness to it. And then the performances in general, they're really like toned down, very like subtle, not subtle, but like just bland, monotone. And, I love Star Fox 64 for the hamminess, for the Power Rangers-esque sort of performances. I love it. So all in all, it's like, it's all those things. And then even the on-rails sections, it just felt a little floatier and slower than like Star Fox 64. So I just in general didn't have a great time with it, sadly.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like you mentioned the hamminess of Star Fox 64, and even with that kind of heightened performance that you have in that game, you still, that moment where James, if you do the good route through the game and Fox's father guides you back out, that, was a proper emotional gut punch, actually, because you weren't expecting it at all. And it's that thing of going, and then it's never explained in the game afterwards. It was So, despite that kind of that level of performance, I think there's something magical about Star Fox 64 that it can also be a beautiful story.
Even Kermit the Frog can make you cry. It's
Yeah.
just because they have these wacky, silly voices doesn't mean they can't compel you in some way. Like I remember when you escape out of Andross's base and you just hear Peppy go like, "Fox, you're okay," and it's like, yeah, it's great stuff.
No, it's fantastic. Okay, all right. So not a big fan of Assault. And then what about the next entry then, Command? Because I feel like that's probably the game that splits opinion the most. Well, apart from Adventures, actually. But yes, what do you think of Command?
So with Command, at first I was like, I don't think I can play this because I don't know what's going on here. But like once you figure out what the game really wants you to do and you kind of get into the swing of things, I really started to enjoy it. It obviously lacks a lot of things. It could use like full on rails level shooting because that's infinitely superior to what we have here with Command. But I love the multiple endings. I love being able to play as multiple characters like Wolf, Falco, and stuff like that. Slippy, surprisingly, I enjoyed playing as. So this game kind of turned me around on Slippy a bit. And I also love the OST. The music for that game has some great compositions. Like Falco's theme is fantastic. And it's been a while since I played, but I recall like the main theme also being really good when you play as Fox and stuff like that. So all in all, I like that. And of course the multiple endings are super fun and it really adds to the replayability in a way that none of the other Star Fox games came close to. Like, yes, Star Fox 64 had the branching paths and stuff and that was fantastic. But man, imagine Star Fox 64, but all the different level paths that you choose makes an entirely different ending for each one. That would make the replayability shoot through the roof, and I give a lot of credit for Command for doing that. It's kind of the fun.
Oh yeah, well, I'm going to go through them in a sec, but the things that are different in the game. So there's like it utilizes the touchscreen on the DS. So for anybody that's not played it, the thing that's very different is that you have like a set amount of fuel for each level. So you have to like plan your route and then basically sort of plan your route to interact with enemies and get to the objective. It's not always easy. Sometimes the path is obscured, so you can't see if there's an enemy coming up. You have to balance your health with that. All the characters have their own ships with different sort of skill sets. So, like, I think Slippy can't lock on or something. There's really, it really shakes up the formula. How about you, Kat? How did you sort of feel about those changes in the gameplay?
Well, my hand, unfortunately, is gnarled into a permanent claw after playing Star Fox Command. And I think between that and Elite Beat Agents may have done the most damage to my Nintendo DS touchscreen. It was an interesting game. I didn't realize how much it took from Star Fox 2 when I originally played it on the Nintendo DS. Obviously, because the touchscreen was in vogue, because of the stylus, a lot of developers were encouraged to use that mode of play as much as possible. And to be honest, I don't. The Nintendo DS didn't have a analog stick or anything, but I don't know if I was the biggest fan of using a stylus to direct my ships around. And the actual dogfights could be quite frustrating. Also, intercepting the missiles, because I think you had to follow kind of in their wake.
Yes,
and because the touchscreen, the stylus was so floaty, it was very difficult to achieve any kind of precision with that game. So I found myself struggling a bit. I found the almost board game aspect of it pretty fun in its own way, but because it necessarily limited the encounters, and this is a thing with Star Fox 2 as well, because it necessarily limited the encounters to these very bite-sized little moments, it didn't feel as dynamic to me as Star Fox 64. So out of all of the traditional Star Fox games, I think this one's pretty far down for me. It may be below Star Fox Zero.
Oh, all right.
I mean, I respect Star Fox Command because it was worked on by one of the original programmers, Dylan Cuthbert, and his team. And obviously, he has a lot of affection for the world that he helped to create. And he had a huge number of ideas from the original Star Fox, and also his programming chops allowed this game to take sort of maximum advantage of the Nintendo DS's 3D capabilities. It's just much like Star Fox Assault, it was just a hair too ambitious for its own good.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I love the things that it's trying to do, but sometimes it feels like it gets in its own way a bit by doing that. You know, like you're talking about sort of limiting encounters. I love it when it's action packed, actually, and you know, yeah, you can have those breaks, but I think it's not quite seamless in those transitions in the way that you'd want it to be in that game. I do have the endings up here. I'll give it a super brief rundown. If anybody's got a favourite ending, we'll go through it. But there's basically Fox, Crystal, Falco, and Slippy. They purify Venom, and they form a team with Amanda as well. And then Dash, who is Andross's grandson, becomes the new Emperor. We don't know if he's evil in that one. There's a little lightning bolt behind us. We're not sure. There's Goodbye Fox. Oh yes, the Angler Empire. So it's not Andross. It's the Anglers that are coming in this one. This one is where Crystal and Fox get together. They have Marcus, who then forms a new Star Fox team with old Falco, Marcus, a generic Slippy child. I don't think they have a name.
Slippy child.
Generic Slippy child. And Peppy's granddaughter. There's there's Cat running away and joining Star Wolf. Star Wolf returns. So that's it. That's the one with Curse that we talk about, Cat, where she's almost back to her Adventures design, actually, with a kind of scantily clad outfit. Lucy and Crystal. Oh my gosh, Lucy. So that's Peppy's daughter, and they sort of talk about all the people that have died and that they miss. There's Dash becoming the Emperor of Venom and waging war on Lylat. Slippy getting married and having kids and telling stories to them. Oh gosh, Falco and Cat joining Dash and making Star Falco team. And then the best one, not the best one, but a good one, Fox and Falco, rejected from their partners, enter the G0 Grand Prix race, which is basically just a rip-off of F-Zero. Did you have a favourite one out of those, Kat?
Definitely either the cursed ending or the Star Fox GP ending.
Yeah.
The Star Fox GP ending was funny because there were the rumors of the Star Fox GP game for the longest time that I think this ending arguably helped fuel.
Oh, yeah. Which I think would be great, personally.
It's in the F-Zero universe, like confirmed, right? Star Fox and F-Zero are in the same timeline canon.
And Starlink, maybe, but that's too much. How about you, Shesez? A favourite ending out of them for you?
I mean, none of them really struck out to me, but of course, one of the ones that always reminds me of the multiple endings is the one where they start, basically join F-Zero, essentially. Yeah. And I'm trying to think, there is one where literally there's an image of Fox at a bar holding a cocktail, isn't there?
That's that one.
That's the same one?
Yeah. Yeah, Falco's consoling him. And then they're both suited up next to their races, and then they're just caning it along an F-Zero track.
I just love the idea of Fox and Falco slumming it at a bar. I don't know.
Honestly, the endings are high comedy, but they're so... The art is so bad that it really diminishes the Star Fox universe as a place and kind of turns it into almost self-parody. Which, I mean, it's a universe full of furries, so maybe it's already halfway there anyway, but I had a harder time taking the Star Fox universe seriously after Star Fox Command, I'll have to say.
I think that's fair. I quite like them. I really like the one for me. Is I always felt like the one with Marcus was the one I was like, I feel like that's the ending for me. But yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it's a fair thing. They're just a sort of series of 3 pictures, aren't they, with a bit of text. But yes, it did do a bit of world building, but I don't know if they ever confirmed which was the kind of true ending, because after that we got Star Fox Zero.
Star Fox GP, obviously.
Oh, Star Fox GP, obviously. Another universe. We got Star Fox Zero, which is, ultimately really a kind of retelling of Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Guard with its tower defense game, and then Starlink Battle for Atlas, which is not a Star Fox game. It's near enough a Star Fox game.
I love that we just completely glossed over Star Fox Zero.
Do we need to talk about what?
It was a seriously controversial game when it came out. because
Cat, will you grace us with a cat take about Star Fox Zero?
it wasn't good, but I reviewed it at the time, and once I got used to the gamepad controls, it was okay. I think the thing that rubbed the people the wrong way about Star Fox Zero was Nintendo saying they could literally only make a Star Fox game if they could come up with some kind of sort of off-putting gimmick, which I think ignored its very real strengths as a rail shooter. And I think plenty of people would have said that they would have loved a Star Fox game with modern graphics and a much increased scope that really did justice to the ambitions of Star Fox 64 or Star Fox Assault. And instead, we got a pretty janky rail shooter that had a really... I'm going to just be flat out honest. The motion controls with the gamepad did not really work for me.
No.
A lot of the levels that weren't the rail shooting didn't quite work, and ultimately it was a fairly disappointing turn for the series, and it felt like Nintendo was being a little disrespectful to Star Fox as well. So it was a little bit of a low light to me, for sure.
Yes. How about you, Shesez?
So for me, like I agree with all those criticisms that you mentioned. I think like with the gamepad, it took way longer than it should have, but I eventually got used to it. And when I did, I was like that Danny DeVito gif of I get it now, because like, you know, there's a level of
figured it out eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, exactly. I think it like took me like, I want to say like maybe an hour and a half to finally figure it out, which is way too long. But once you got it, like just the level of control you could have with it, like being able to like shoot directly below you or directly above you and stuff like that, while also maneuvering the arwing and stuff, it was really cool. And then also, of course, turning into, I don't know if I am not thinking of the actual official name, but the chicken wing, basically, where what I forget, the walker or whatever.
The walker, yeah.
Oh yeah, the walker, which they brought back from Star Fox 2.
Yeah, which that was really cool. So I did like it a lot. It's just that it would have been nice if it was a sequel. It would have been nice if one of the things I always have a hard time with is whenever Nintendo puts out a sequel to a franchise and then it's smaller in scale. Like Star Fox 64 has more levels, more branching paths. The fact that like we're all the way into the future and we have this almost realized sequel to Star Fox 64, at least by gameplay standards, it doesn't have as many levels and stuff. That to me is like disgraceful. It should always be like bigger and better. And the fact that it's scaled back is a little disappointing. But with that said, I also appreciate that it in some ways is a return to form. I like that they brought back a lot of the original voice cast for this game. And although it is a retelling of Star Fox 64's plot, there's still a lot of different things going on within the journey to Venom, at least. There's like missions that I really appreciate that are actually memorable. Like, for example, taking down, it's like basically like a mothership, essentially. And you have to turn into the chicken walker to get into one of the vents, just, explode the core, like in Star Fox 2, and get out of there before it completely destroys itself. All the while, too, I think it's either before or after, then you fight Starwolf themselves. And I was like, oh, this is intense. This is like one of the best missions I've ever played, even if I'm thinking about between Star Fox 64 and Zero. And, of course, the original Super Nintendo one. I was like, this is definitely like a top-tier mission, I felt like.
Yeah.
So
this...
it has its moments. Yeah. And, again, so ultimately, I walk away from it appreciating that it's a return to form. I would like for them to go back and do more traditional controls, obviously. I'm not trying to do a whole pitch just yet, but just as like if they continue in this direction, we'd love to see like more traditional controls. And it's fine if they do like a Universe B where now this is like a completely different plot that's a sequel to Star Fox Zero. That would be cool.
I think Star Fox should get out of the Lylat system. And so maybe start with the Lylat system, but then move into a entirely new and ideally larger area with multiple branching paths. And this is not my pitch, by the way.
Okay. Please continue.
This is not my pitch. I have a totally different pitch. Okay. But I also think that Star Fox is at its best when it's a rail shooter, and one of the problems that the series has faced over time is that it has too many different modes of gameplay that tend to feel a little underbaked compared to the main action in the arwing. So ideally, you would lean into that aspect to the maximum extent possible, but potentially have a variety of different ships, much like you had in Star Fox Command, where you can play as the Star Wolf team, or you can play as Cat, and these ships have different abilities, and that meaningfully change the way that you interact with these levels, potentially opening up alternate exits and that sort of thing. Have black holes, have all kinds of wild things, and that's what I would have liked. But instead, they're like, well, what's the gimmick? Otherwise, there's no point to having a Star Fox game. It's true, Star Fox 64 is a perfect game, and how do you improve on that?
Well, I mean, so I'll be very brief, and we'll move on to the pitches because we're getting dangerously close to pitch territory. But I always felt like it was a missed opportunity with the pad. You know, the big thing about the Wii U was the asymmetric gameplay. And, you know, as she says, you mentioned about jumping on the wing and being a gunner on Star Fox Assault. And I always thought, how good if it would be like a two-player mode where one of you is flying and you have to, you know, really focus on the flying, and then somebody else is the gunner on the ship with the Wii U pad, and, you know, has to sort of navigate round like that. It felt like there were much better applications that could have been than the ones they chose. I did love the game, you know, once I got used to it. I've actually got I entered that competition, and I have a certificate signed by Miyamoto because I achieved a high score in the game. I'm going to find it. I had it out, but I've lost it. But it doesn't matter. No, that's my degree. That's boring.
That's not.
No, it's important.
That's just my degree.
Yes, so
lying on the floor somewhere over there. So I framed the Miyamoto certificate. The degree.
Yes. Nah, I mean, I genuinely, I think I probably am going to do that. So look, all right. So I think we agree. You know, there are some highlights, but generally not one of the best entries. But luckily, she says, as you won the quiz, you are now the president of Nintendo, but we are the board, and we demand that you bring Star Fox back. So please tell us, how will you restore it to its former glory?
Okay. Maybe my pitch is somewhat similar to what we talked about before, but yeah, I would want a sequel to Star Fox Zero. I don't mind doing a Universe B thing, because I did think some of the extended characters that were going through the original timeline got a little bit out of control. Some of the characters past they were going on were not my favorite. I wouldn't want to keep seeing where that keeps going. So I do like the idea of consolidating everybody to the core Star Fox team, and seeing like new drama and stuff like that start to arise from it. And so with mine, I would do a primarily Star Fox 64 type sequel, no gimmicks. It would just have sort of like the gameplay of Star Fox 64. The appeal that would make this better would be that with the on-rail segments, with a much larger budget and team, we can have more interesting things coming at you and better scripted events, essentially, as you're going through the rails. I think that would be super cool. Obviously, more branching paths, more endings, and I think for the dogfight segments of the game, a new twist to it could be that you could also hop out of the arwing and shoot from the ground. I think that would be really, really cool. And I think that there could be also story elements that could be tied into that. So, like, for example, one really cool scripted level I've always drummed up in my head is the idea that you're doing one of the traditional dogfights with Star Wolf, and then at a certain point you chase after Star Wolf and he shoots down your ship. You're stuck on foot because your arwing is blasted down. Meanwhile, Wolf has like a chicken walker essentially, and he's hunting you down, and so you have to like hide and cover and set traps and try to take him out of the chicken walker essentially. Stuff like that. Like keep it really dynamic and fun, but at the same time too sort of having like the heart of Star Fox and not try to deviate too much from what makes those games fun. So that would basically be it. It's just bigger and better. Like try to win back the faith of the fan base, essentially.
So sticking true to the classic formula, who's developing the game for you?
Ooh, okay. I mean, I could see Platinum coming back, but just give them a little bit more control. I think that with
Platinum's dead.
Oh, is it completely disbanded? Is that
it's not completely dead, but it might as well be.
Yeah, they lost their star
people
child.
Have left.
Yeah, Kamiya
It's not
I
just
haven't seen what's come out of them.
It's all of the artists and designers and everybody.
Oh, really? Completely gutted.
Did all
Okay.
the best work. I mean,
Oh.
it's not great over there, unfortunately.
No,
Yeah.
in a lot of places, yeah.
Well, then I'm trying to think of because I don't typically dip into vehicle-based genre games, and so it would be hard to pick like a star player team for.
I have one for you.
Okay.
Hand it over to Criterion. Criterion worked on Star Wars Battlefront 2, and they are renowned for their vehicle-based segments. And if you ever play Star Wars Battlefront 2, not my favorite game, but the vehicle segments where you're flying around in an X-Wing and everything, incredible. It's so good.
They're very good.
All right, they're hired as president of Nintendo. I'm listening to my board member.
Kat, any questions for Shesez's pitch?
The on-foot segments have traditionally been not that fun in Starfox. What would you do to make them more fun?
I think we would have to look at on-foot shooter games and do more to try to imitate that. Because there is like a looseness to Assault that feels janky and not quite right. And I haven't even played that mode in Star Fox 64 where you can actually play as the on-foot characters. It's been so long, I can't remember if that even plays well. Because like I would look to see if there's something that we could like pull out of that and maybe work with that. But ultimately, it's like the idea that as long as you're not focusing too much on some other gimmick, like the gamepad or like a gyrocopter segment or anything quite like that. It's literally just going to be arwings and then dogfighting. We would do a lot to polish up just those two gameplay modes.
Are you thinking more cover-based shooter, or are you thinking more of an arcadey kind of approach?
More arcadey. Yeah, that like the way I described the scene with Wolf, like there would be like a scene set up where you could hide and do stuff like that. But that would be meant to be almost strictly for like that one scripted segment. Otherwise, it's the advantage of not having to constantly do loop-de-loops, not barrel rolls. Obviously, you do that, but like constantly trying to get behind people that are gunning you down from behind and stuff like that, or constantly having to flip your ship back around because you hit the invisible barriers of the arena, essentially, instead have an ability to kind of be like stationary, and then not have a vehicle that's constantly in motion. Whereas the arwing would still have its advantages, of course, but ultimately, like you want to have the ability to either stand in place because there might be tactical advantages to do so, depending on what your opponents are at the time, or you may want to be in motion because of the type of enemies that happen to be on the field. So you ultimately react to what is going to be thrown at you in these dogfight segments. And it's going to be a little more a little bit more involved than just a couple of stray enemies that, you just do like a loop-de-loop, shoot them down, do that, rinse and repeat until Starwolf shows up, and then it's over. So like there'll be more enemy types that require more response than just simple.
Bit more strategy.
Yeah, a bit more strategy to it.
Okay, I like this pitch. Very strong pitch. I mean, I love classic Starfox, so what's not to love? Any other questions, Kat? All right. That's a very nice pitch. Kat, you are now the president of Nintendo, and as the board, we make the same request of you. We would like you to bring back Starfox and make it a success. So please tell us, how would you do that?
At long last, my time has come.
It's all been building up to this.
Well, I would stress that Starfox is not a AAA franchise and should not be expected to be as such, but can fill a niche. Surprisingly, Nintendo hasn't released a huge number of smaller downloadable games, bite-sized games, I would say. And I would pitch this as a digital-only release, something that could potentially even be free to NSO subscribers. And I would pitch a Starfox roguelite in which you would try to complete a run through the Lylatian system without dying. And initially, you would start out with quite a weak ship, and probably you're going to die. But over time, you can unlock upgrades for your arwing. You can unlock additional characters. You can unlock additional ships. And of course, as you get further and further, like you earn some kind of currency, because this is a currency-based ship game, because Starfox is a mercenary squadron. And if you're able to defeat the game on one run, then that unlocks more routes. And so you can take harder routes. Or if you can beat the game on the hardest route, congratulations, you've managed to defeat this game. But ideally, there should be multiple routes, like in Starfox. I would keep it pretty narrowly focused on the rail shooter aspects, though I would consider adding some landmaster levels as well, if you could. Might be a little more difficult to incorporate that into the upgrade system, and there would be an upgrade set. So you would have the Great Fox, so you would upgrade that, and that would get you more. That would give you access to greater powers, greater abilities, and such. And so I think this would lean into a pretty popular genre that Nintendo has not really embraced to this point. And it would be fundamentally Starfox, and it wouldn't be trying to get away from sort of the core strengths of the series, which to me is definitely the rail shooting. I think Star Fox 64 is the best in the series for a reason, which is it keeps the focus. It does a great job of keeping the focus on the rail shooting, and it has some really incredible levels throughout. And Area 6 comes to mind to me as one of the greatest shoot 'em up levels that I've ever played. It's just thrilling from start to finish as you battle through the entire fleet of Venom, finishing off with a boss that's a lot like the Death Star. Yeah. And that's one aspect that I think is a huge strength of Star Fox, and I would love is the bosses. Many of them are very memorable. Another aspect that's really memorable is flying through ships and shooting the core. Yes. Like in the original Star Fox. That's something that I would want to do. There's so many different areas you could go. I would love to have Starwolf randomly show up. If this is a roguelite, maybe you can randomize it and have a random Starwolf appearance on different planets. So it's not just, they're automatically going to show up on, the snow planet or whatever, or Area 6, they're going to show up here. And then you have to fight them instead of doing a regular level. So that can keep players on their toes, keep things varied, and sort of thing. Starwolf alert. Oh no, you'll be seeing your dad soon, Fox. So that's my pitch. And let me tell you, if Nintendo put this thing out, I would play the hell out of it. It would be... My Switch would basically burn up in my hands from how much I played that game.
So the thing I'd like to know. So we've talked a lot about the sort of story of the game. In terms of the roguelike experience, you're trying to get through to the end of Lylat and then to Venom, presumably, and then that unlocks different branching paths. How important is story to this pitch? Are you pushing the Star Fox story on? Is it kind of just reimagining the classic story? How do you see that sort of shaking out?
That's a really interesting question. I'm not that invested in the mythos of Star Fox, but I can imagine a scenario where... in Star Fox 64, you go into these wormholes and go into alternate dimensions, you might want to say. I think in NiDo is where you can enter this area. It's kind of a bonus stage. I think that if you took that conceit and basically had Fox get trapped in a stable time loop where all of a sudden he's going through this run over and over again, and the only way he can break out of it is to properly defeat Venom, but every time he dies, he gets reset back to the beginning. I mean, it's a little cheesy, it's a little cliche, but it can fit within the actual adventure. And if you wanted to, you could introduce new characters within this framework, especially as characters that you can recruit over time. And maybe when Fox escapes, he's got a whole new group of people and they are on to new adventures.
Nice. Is it just Fox, or are there other players? So you could unlock other people to play as in these other adventures.
Yeah. So you're playing as Fox, but over time, maybe you unlock the rest of the Starfox team. Maybe you unlock the Starwolf team. Maybe you unlock Cat and Bill, and maybe fresh original characters, maybe downloadable content characters.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Now, this is the thing I love about this is that this is the second time Shesez has been on the show, and both times somebody else has pitched a roguelite, and he does not like them.
I got called out. It's okay.
How's this feeling to you, Shesez?
I love that you remember that.
How do you feel about this?
Well, you had me at free, so like I'll definitely try it because it's free. I guess the question I have is if it is supposed to be a smaller scale game, there's a lot of cool ideas that were clearly pitched here. What is the scope of the actual on-rails levels? Would they be like lesser than Star Fox 64, or would they be just about the same amount of curation as...
About the same size.
Yeah, about the same?
You can knock out a run of Star Fox 64 in about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, less, like 20 minutes. 25 minutes or so. Something like that.
So I think that... I'm not going to pull out a spreadsheet and start calculating a budget for you, but making something on the scale of Star Fox 64 and potentially even reusing assets from Star Fox Zero, which that game's 10 years old now. I think you could do it. Yeah. You could get away with it on the Switch 2 or whatever. You could make a game on a pretty easy budget, I think. Yeah.
Who's developing it for you?
Oh, Nintendo. I mean,
okay.
But I would probably get Dylan Cuthbert involved. He's still out there, and I would have him at least consult on it and maybe play as a support studio. But I'm sick of Nintendo outsourcing this thing. I want them to hand it off to an internal team. Sorry, Bandai Namco. Yeah. Sorry, Ubisoft. I want you to respect Star Fox and keep it in-house.
Yeah, we're getting Miyamoto out of retirement, and we're getting him on this one.
So Miyamoto will come out, and the next thing you know, you're just going to have some crazy gimmick attached to it.
Yeah, true.
Well, how can we make this more of a toy? It's like, I don't want it to be a toy. I want it to be a rail shooter.
Yeah.
That's what I want. We're running low on time. Any more questions, Shesez?
No, I think that's it.
It's a great pitch. I'm going to throw in a third pitch super quickly. I love both of these ideas. The thing I want to see is, so the thing for me, I think I've sort of maybe left a few breadcrumbs with this, is that the story for Star Fox, even though it is a goofy universe full of silly furry animals, is something I've just always been invested in. I've always loved the story that they tell. When I was a teenager, I did want to see what Falco got up to between adventures and 64 and Adventure. I thought that'd be a great game, just seeing him being like a bounty hunter. That's not what I want here. I want a return to classic gameplay, but I want it to be properly set in the future. And I think there's always been a thing about like fathers and sons, James and Fox, and like Peppy's kind of fathering of Fox and that kind of thing, and saying goodbye to Vivian in Command with his daughter. Parents and children are a big thing, I think, in Star Fox. So I want it to be that Marcus is around. Fox and Crystal have had Marcus. They've set up their own team. And it's kind of like he has an antagonistic relationship with Fox. And Dash Bowman has become the Emperor of Venom. And he attacks Lylat. And there's something that happens which basically means Marcus and Fox are kind of like having a fight in space. And this attack gets launched, and Fox basically ends up shipwrecked on a planet. And Marcus has to, basically save the day and save his dad. And you have lots of branching paths. But what happens with these paths is that you can start anywhere, and that one path tells a story. So you can do the story of Marcus. You're traveling, you're starting on Corneria, you're going to Zones or whatever, or Solar or whatever, doing these flying missions. But then also you can start from Corneria and you can see what Amanda's route is through the game. Or not Amanda, generic Slippy child. Let's call him Orsino because that's one of the ones I used. You can see his adventure, and he has some submarine levels, The rabbit has the kind of bunny walk levels, but every so often these different paths intersect, and then you get a level where you've got, like 2 arwings or an arwing and a landmaster, and depending on which route you're playing, you then play from the other point of view in that level. So you get all this different gameplay. You move through, and once you unlock all of those paths, you can then do the sort of final chapter, which would be, classic kind of Fox and Marcus battling, making up and battling, and maybe you get Fox leading Marcus out just like James did in Star Fox 64. And the two other things I want to quickly throw in there, I would want, obviously a battle mode, I'm not going to talk about that, but a kind of salmon run from a Splatoon deal where every so often you get like, hey, there's an invasion, take to your arwings, and you might have 8 random people on the internet just having to battle back these waves of things with a huge boss fight, like you said, Cat sort of coming in at the end. And just to keep the kind of arcade roots, I would want an endless mode where you've got a high score, and it's my go-to for any arcade thing on this series, but a procedurally generated on rails run, and just see how far you can get, basically, and depending on who you're playing as, the ships might have different qualities. So yeah, return to the formula for me, set in the future, telling a new story, but the classic like on rails, branching paths coming together to tell this lovely story. I did put Nintendo. The other people I thought to develop it would either be, I thought about giving Platinum another chance, but no, they've lost me with Zero. Retro, I think, make fantastic games. I don't know how necessarily that experience was something like this, but I would just trust them with anything. So I think I would throw it to them. Any questions quickly for my pitch?
Who did Streets of Rage 4? Was it .emu?
Yes, it was. Yes. Oh, they're fantastic.
I'd have a great time. I would love to see what they could do with it. They're more 2D, but they could maybe play around with the style a little bit.
They could. I think they would make it look. Yeah. They would go with a really cool style, and they would. I think you get that, like the impact you get from Streets of Rage 4. I think is fantastic. I think they'd get they'd nail the combat. Actually, that's a really good shout. I might pinch .emu.
So really lean into the arcade aspect.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I do a few rapid fire pitches when you have a second?
Please do. Yes.
So, bonus round pitches.
Bonus round. Go, go, go.
Starfox, the visual novel. It's Fox, but now he's Ace Attorney. Starfox, the tactics RPG with the arwings and the landmasters and everything. Think of it as like that game that was by the FTL developers, Into the Breach. Into the Breach, but it's Starfox. Starfox, the survival sim, where you're basically No Man's Sky it, where you have the Great Fox in orbit and you're going down to the planet and you're collecting resources with Fox, and you have your arwing, you can fly around and fight things. I have to actually play the heck out of that and then give it a real Tears of the Kingdom sheen. So that's like 3 rapid fire pitches that
I feel like we just discovered.
These are great characters. I want to.
Yeah.
I feel like we just got a window into how Nintendo decides all the sequels to Star Fox. It's like, I have this great Star Fox 64 idea, and it's like, okay, you have any bonus pitches? Well, how about Zelda Star Fox? Oh, there we go. Got that. Yeah, put that in the paper. Put Rare on that one. Yeah.
Read it in the voice of Yogurt from Spaceballs. Star Fox the visual novel. Star Fox the tactics RPG.
Star Fox yogurt machine. Yeah, I love that idea.
Star Fox the farming sim. I'd play that.
Everyone loves a farming sim.
They can all date. Fox is dating Crystal or Farah or
Nintendogs, but Star Fox characters.
You're petting Fox.
No.
I mean, lots of an unbelievable amount of pitches from Cat at the end there. Lovely rapid fire pitches, but those are our 3 main pitches for bringing back Star Fox. So, which would you like? Would you like Shesez's pure Star Fox Zero sequel with new drama for the classic team, topped off with improved combat and optional ways to engage developed by Criterion with strong story beats? Would you like Cat's digital-only Star Fox roguelite, where you unlock currency to improve your ship and unlock new routes through Lylatian, a more focused experience developed in-house with some random encounters for some extra thrill, where you need to steer Fox out of a time loop and return him home? Or would you like my classic branching path gameplay with on-rails action, focus more on the story and developing more characters in the Star Fox universe? Or do you have a better idea yourself? Let us know in the comments below. If you could like and subscribe, we would love that too. If you're listening on the podcast, please do rate and leave a comment. It helps us to grow. You can find us all over on Bluesky. Kat, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
been an absolute blast. Thank you. And Shesez, thank you very much for coming back.
Sounded fun. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you very much for listening. But for now, from all of us, that's game over. Goodbye.